Welcome back, everybody. Toy Connections here with something a little bit different. To date, I've been doing side-by-side comparisons of figures of the same character. This time, what I'd like to tackle is the G.I. Joe Classified line and to see how well a WWE Mattel-style Sgt Slaughter fits with the G.I. Joe Classified line. So, the first thing we're going to do here is look at them inside the box. Now, this is not the only version of a Mattel Sgt Slaughter that's available. You know, there is a Legend style one with a white shirt. There's a generalized basics version, which I've got that I'm going to show later on. There's one with the Iraqi sympathizer one. And outside of the WWE ones, there's also a Valaverse Action Force one, which I have not ordered yet, but that one has a jacket and some weapons that looks a bit different. For the purpose of this, I've elected to compare the Hall of Fame Elite style Sgt Slaughter that I happen to have. So if you are a box collector, the first thing you're obviously going to notice is the different style of box. Is the size dramatically off? Not really. You know, there's the flap at the top. There's the fact that he sits a bit lower inside the box. There's the fact that he, you know, he's got a WWE style bio on the back that talks about when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, that talks about when he won the title, when he won the Royal Rumble. And so I'll just slide that back over there. One of the key things to consider, though, is unlike when I compared the Fortnite Havoc as a stand-in for a G.I. Joe Classified Firefly, the big difference here is this is actually a Sgt Slaughter. I've had some people say in the past that, okay, the Fortnite Havoc, because it's not actually a G.I., it's not actually representing a G.I. Joe, it's supposed to be Havoc. That's why they say, you know, they don't really consider it the type of figure that would go with G.I. Joe Classified. Again, that's all subject to debate. Some people don't really care as long as it looks like a G.I. Joe Classified figure. In this case, it's not, the Sgt Slaughter is not part of the Classified line. Having said that, it does represent Sgt Slaughter. So, there's a bit of a difference there compared to the Fortnite Havoc. So I'm going to do some comparisons here with other G.I. Joe Classified figures outside of the box. Looking at Sarge out of the packaging here, so the first thing you're going to notice is he's quite a bit taller than Beachhead. So that means he's quite a bit taller than many of the standard-sized G.I. Joe figures, but he stands in height relatively close to what Gung Ho would be. And for the sort of larger, bulkier, taller G.I. Joes, I think this makes sense. So is the scale dramatically off? No. In fact, I would actually say that it's very close, if not almost exact to where he should be. When Sgt Slaughter was in the cartoon, he was very tall, he was very imposing. So if he's going to scale with the larger Joes, I think it looks totally fine. Now, so one thing that you'll notice, though, is once you do get his hat on, he's going to be noticeably taller than Gung Ho. But even then, it's like, it's not so far off, at least in my opinion, so as to be considered something that doesn't look good with the line. I look at this and I tell myself personally, I think it's okay. But let's have a look at some of the articulation as it compares to the G.I. Joe Classified figures. So with Beachhead, you'll see the double jointed elbows here that can move. You'll notice the double jointed knees. You know, you'll notice ankle rocker, ankle pivot. You'll notice obviously the neck moves, wrists, bicep swivels, shoulder joints, the hip movement, torso crunch. It's a bit harder on Beachhead than it is on the others, but you can kind of see the torso crunch there on Gung Ho. So just looking at Sgt Slaughter here by comparison, while I get Beachhead to stand up properly if I can, you'll notice this is single jointed elbows, but double jointed knees. He's got the ankle rotation, at least forward and back, basically no ankle rocker this way. He's got the same sort of leg swivels here that Beachhead had. He's got the hip articulation. He's got the ab crunch, the shoulders, the neck, obviously. So the articulation is almost identical with that of a G.I. Joe Classified figure. The big omission being the double jointed elbows there. So overall, I like the articulation. Now, that being said, this is a elite style Sgt Slaughter. If you are going to get a, I'm just going to push Beachhead aside here so I can make some more room for the camera. If you are ultimately going to get a basic style Sgt Slaughter, which is this version right here. Actually, no, I don't need his hat for this one. You'll notice that there is no ab crunch. Knees are single jointed, and there is no hip movement there. Having said that, with the basic Sgt Slaughter, it's going to be cheaper if you do happen to find one on the market. So overall, what do I think? Decent. Articulation is there depending on which version you get, but overall you can see in general how he fits with the G.I. Joe classified line. So let's close off with some final thoughts here. You'll see that I brought Destro into frame just so we can see a comparison with a Cobra character. Now, when you think of Sgt Slaughter as far as the original Sunbow 80s cartoon is concerned, he had a very muscular frame. His muscular pronunciation on his body, if he was in classified figure form, I would expect it to look like what Gung Ho is. The Sgt Slaughter, in fact, the two Sgt Slaughters you're seeing here are very much based off of the Robert Remus actor / wrestler who portrays Sgt Slaughter. If you're okay with that, like I am, great. You've more or less found the classified figure for your collection that represents Sgt Slaughter. If not, if you need him to be a little bit more like his Sunbow proportions, then, you know, hopefully there's a release in the future. Like I mentioned earlier, there's the Valaverse one that has the jacket on, a little bit different. And like I said, that one has some weapons. And the one thing that you'll note with these versions of Sgt Slaughter is that they don't actually come with weapons. I mean, sure, the Hall of Fame Elite style has the whistle that you see around his neck there. The Basics version came with a Slammy Award that I didn't show here. I mean, it's not really a weapon, right? And the other versions I'm aware of don't come with anything either. Now, having said that, the original 80s Sgt Slaughter figure, the O-ring version, came with only a baton. So, you know, could you makeshift something? Could you 3D print something if you really wanted to? You probably could. But overall, the decision is yours. You've now seen everything here in frame. You've got some of my insights. You know, by now you've drawn some of your own conclusions. And hey, talk about it amongst yourselves. Let me know as well, yay or nay. Mattel Sgt Slaughter WWE style as part of the classified line, does it work on a very acceptable makeshift basis? You guys decide. I think it does, but hey, I'm not the only voice out there. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate all your time in terms of viewing my videos, and we'll see you next time with some more toy content.